Welcome, educators! The following video is a session from the Science News Learning, formerly Science News in High School's webinar series. This program provides the Society for Science's award-winning journalism and standards-aligned lesson plans to public middle and high schools for free to support educators in building engaging, real-world science curricula that bring alive core concepts with the most recent advancements in STEM. The Society for Science is a nonprofit membership organization dedicated to expanding scientific literacy, effective STEM education, and scientific research. If you'd like to reach out to any of the presenters or learn more about the resources discussed, please contact snlearning@societyforscience.org.
Welcome to our webinar series, the fifth session actually in this series. And I'm Anna Rhymes. I'm the Director of STEM Literacy and Curriculum at the Society for Science. Joined tonight by Raina. Raina, you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Raina Van Dyme. I'm the specialist on the Science News in High Schools program. Thank you all for being here with us tonight.
And we are also joined by two additional.
They took their sign down.
Yeah, I saw that. I noticed that this morning.
Got some volume on. We will get them muted. Okay, and we're also joined by Lori Hermelin and Emily Freeland. And I'm going to flip to the next slide to tell you a little bit about the session as well. So Raina and I are going to start out and just do a quick review of the program resources and also where you can find them on the different websites that we have. So you can open some of those up as you're hearing also from additional presenters. Then we'll turn it over to Lori, and she is a teacher librarian at Castic High School in California, and she will tell you how she uses the program resources with her science department. So she's going to give some different insight there. And then we're going to hand it over to Emily Freeland, who is a program specialist and works on our advocate program. And she's going to give an overview of that program and then tell you where, if you're looking to actually to put in an application for the program, where to do that. And then we'll have a little question and answer session opportunity at the end of that. All right. So we'll go ahead and start off with an overview of the journalism resources.
Okay, so we know that we have a lot of resources and they all sit on different websites. So we're going to tell you a little bit about each one and how to find them. First up, Science News and Science News for Students are the Society's two award-winning journalism publications that cover the breadth of science. Science journalists on both teams are experts in their fields, and they provide a comprehensive overview of the latest scientific research. Articles are packed with literary devices, which make them fun to read and easy to understand, and also really great literacy-based learning tools, as you'll hear in this webinar. So first up, we have Science News, which is a print magazine, and articles can also be found at sciencenews.org. And it is written for the general public, but it has readability scores that equate to high school grades. And then next, we have Science News for Students, which is online only, and articles can be found at sciencenewsforstudents.org. These generally have readability scores that equate to middle school grades. And it also has additional educational content like power words, which are vocabulary words at the end of every article. And articles in both Science News and Science News for Students have citations at the bottom of the page, and many of those link to primary research articles that are open source. So that's a great way to get your students reading primary research as well.
All right, and so we've just heard about the journalism resources, and then also a part of our program is to create educator content to help you all integrate our journalism articles into your regular classroom curricula. And so what we do is we align these lesson plans with the next generation science standards, and we pair them to a Science News and generally a Science News for Students article. So you actually have two different reading levels of the article that's associated with these lesson plans. We highlight core curricular STEM content in our comprehension question and answers, and then we kind of lift up the more cross-curricular content as well as the cross-cutting concepts in our discussion prompts and answers. We also provide activities. So those are generally this year paired to totally separate articles. And they range really kind of the gamut of hands-on different experiments, debates, data dives, a lot of engineering and experimental design, different types of activities as well. So again, those are also paired to articles, but provide kind of hands-on inquiry-based experiences for your students. Those can all be found at this URL at the bottom. If you want to do a keyword search, it's sciencenews.org/SNHS/search. Really relevant to this session is our theme of literacy-based lesson plans that can all be found if you go to sciencenews.org/SNHS and you go to Browse Guides and then go down and click on Literacy Practices. And on this next slide, we've just pulled a couple of examples of different literacy lesson plans. So how to write a summary, taking notes and creating visual summaries, arguing from evidence, news you can trust, dissect a scientific argument. So these are just all examples of really literacy themed lesson plans that can generally be paired to any article that you would like them to be. So on the website itself, they're paired to one article, but you could always just grab the questions from these different lesson plans and pair them to different articles. All right, so enough about the resources. We're going to hand it over now to Lori, who will tell you about her classroom.
Hello. My name's Lori Hermelin, and I'm here to share basically how I've implemented the incredible resources that Science News in High School provided to us, and how I work with my department from the standpoint of being the teacher librarian in California. So I'm a teacher librarian at Castaic High School, and that's in Southern California. I have 24 years teaching experience, and I was an English teacher for 8.5 years, and then became a teacher librarian. And I've worked in both middle school and high school. So that's us. Our high school is just 3 years old. We opened in 2019 and closed our doors in March with everyone else in 2020, March of 2020. So we've been utilizing and looking for digital resources. And since we're also a new school, we also wanted to find really good resources that we could use for free and that are timely. And that's one of the plugs that I always like to make for Science News and high school resources, because they're timely, they're updated, and they're very high quality. So when Raina and Anna asked me if I'd be interested in presenting, it was because I had written a letter thanking the donors that have made it possible for us to have this subscription, to thank them for their resources. And I thanked them in the process. They contacted me and said, hey, would you share your lesson and your process with others that they could maybe replicate? And so I said, sure. And so that's what I'm talking about today, bringing the Science News and high school resources to the science classroom where you might be working. So it's basically, this is my process. I get the word out, I work with the department, we work together to select the activity, and then I help pair it with material. So basically, I become the point person for the outreach. I'm a curator of resources. So I receive magazine bundles that they send out. I distribute them to the department members. And then I share the email blast that highlights particular activities. And I typically highlight some piece of that just because I'm looking to find people to collaborate with. That is one of the challenges teacher librarians face in comprehensive high schools, being able to find people that'll come in and work with us. And I do some of the heavy lifting for them so that they can just kind of focus on content. Oops. So after I've sent out the email blast and I've distributed the bundles of the magazines, the next thing I do is I attend department meetings because I want to see where my colleagues are in their attainment of the next generation science standards. So I bring some ideas about science literacy and also digital citizenship to the table, because we're really hoping that along with building their science knowledge, we're also building lifelong skills for them to employ when they are out in the world and they're looking at social media and science in the news and all of that. So the third thing I do is then I help, after I've connected at the department meetings and I hear where they're at, I might go back and look for current or archive topics from the science news and align them with science literacy practice and model school library standards. So that's what in California we call our library standards. But the most important thing is that sometimes, like Anna was saying, the literacy practices are embedded with an article, and a teacher will tell me, well, that article doesn't work, but I'd really like to do dissecting a scientific argument, but I'm looking for something that has to do with a different topic. And so I'll take that and go into the archives and maybe start looking for something that meets that teacher's need. And when I find something, or I find a couple of things, then I can bring it back to the table, and that helps us develop the lesson around an actual article. And then I pull all those pieces together. I'm trying to always, we're a standards-based school site, which means that the teachers are teaching to standards, and they keep circling back to helping students achieve the standards. So we are always looking to connect those two pieces. So I customize the activity to that. There's a lot of really good activities in the lesson plans that are active and engaging. So those pieces are really helpful, because you can take those pieces and you can apply whatever topic your teachers are looking for to that process. So one of the things that I do for the teachers is I adapt the article. The articles, we don't have a one-to-one program here, but we do have, and sometimes teachers don't like working with digital versions of their articles. So I adapt the article and make it so that it's a little more compact. One of the literacy practices we're using as a school site is chunking information and then being able to use those chunks so that they can annotate. So I chunk the article, and then I also prepare, like I said, we kind of tease out the questions that might have been applied to a different article. I pull just the questions out and I put them into a different resource so that it can be utilized with any article that we might be doing on any topic that might be applicable to where they are in their science standards. In this case, we used the claims, evidence, and reasoning graphic organizer, and then we were also doing a standard that asked them to analyze. So then we had to evaluate the claim. And so the students went through the chunks and they evaluated the claims, evidence, and reasoning in each chunk. And this was co-taught with the science teacher. So I was providing some of the practice of literacy, and they were bringing in the actual science. So they were looking at the actual content in the article and helping pull out and help students working through that idea of, is this a claim? Is this evidence, or is this reasoning? So it was this kind of circular pattern for each one of those chunks. Let's see. I put together the lesson plan because I always like to give that to the teachers so they know exactly what to expect from me. And I didn't do a I say, you say, because it's a little more organic than that when I'm working with particular teachers. and I'm the guest in their classroom, and they come to the library as well. So I just want to do my little plug for the teacher librarians that might be at your site or that you might have access to. There are library standards if you're in California that cover 4 topic strands: accessing information, evaluating information, using the information, and then integration of literacy skills into all areas of learning. And there's also National Association of School Library Standards that are nationwide, and they include these competencies. So this is my commercial to encourage you to work with the teacher librarian at your own site, and to see what between you can do to bring some of these resources and some of these literacy practices to your own campus and your own science classroom. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. If you have any questions, or if you'd like to follow up with me on anything, that's my contact information and my website for our school library. And you can follow me on Twitter. I'm not very active. I need to work on that.
Thank you, Lori, so much for joining and sharing all of those pieces with everyone too. I was also going to reiterate that the link to those resources was in the chat, and we can send it. Yes, Edwina, we can send it in the email as well, and we will post it along with the video of this little segment on the website as well. So Lori is gracious to share all of her resources with everybody. So we really appreciate that. So thank you. And so we will transition now. We're going to transition to hearing a little bit more about the Advocates, our Science Education Advocates program.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. So I'm just going to give you a little overview of our Advocates program. The application is currently open, so we wanted to give you a chance to learn more about the program. So first off, what is this program? It is a year-long professional development program for teachers and mentors that are helping to support students from traditionally underrepresented groups in taking the step from completing an independent research project to entering that project into a competition such as the science fair. Advocates receive a $3,000 stipend over the course of the year. It's broken up into different payments. COVID permitting, you get an all expensive paid trip to Washington, D.C. for a weekend training. And you get year-round support from society staff, as well as a lead advocate in your own cohort of other advocates, which will kind of serve as your little support group throughout the year. So as I mentioned, the program provides a $3,000 stipend to participants. And your primary goal is to increase the number of students from underrepresented groups in your research and competition programs. And for this program specifically, underrepresented would be Black or African American students, Hispanic or Latinx, Alaska Native or American Indian, Native Hawaiian, or other Pacific Islander, in addition to low-income students. So any students that would fit into one or multiple of those categories would be eligible for the program. And kind of our baseline goal is for you to increase the number of students from those groups that you normally work with by 3. I will say a lot of our advocates are normally working with many more than 3 students. We have, anywhere from teachers working with 3 students to 60. So we really run the gambit in terms of the different sizes of programs. And to help participants focus kind of their goals and their kind of purpose for the year, we have 4 different advocate types that you can self-select into, and it just kind of helps you focus like what you want to think about for the year. So we have introductory advocates, which are kind of people who are just starting to maybe get into science fair and helping their students with competitions. We have what we call amplification advocates, which are maybe you've always done your school science fair, but now you want to branch into like a national or regional competition that's separate from the science fair. We have our 2 more experienced categories would be culture shift and expansion. So expansion advocates are really looking to open the floodgates in their school of students. Like they're going to other teachers, other grade levels. They're really trying to get a much larger number of students involved. And then our culture shift advocates are aiming more at shifting the culture of their school overall and trying to make science fair a more common practice within your school culture. And I do always like to mention this year, we've added a few new sponsors. So Arconic, Jack Kent Cook Foundation, Regeneron, National Geographic, and Intel are all helping to support this program to have our largest group of advocates yet. We're going to have 84 advocates next year, which we're very excited about. So what does an advocate do throughout the year? So they support a cohort of students, and this can range in how you support. Some people have research classes, some people do clubs, some people do weekend activities. And I will say that you don't have to be a teacher at a school. You could be an educator at a nonprofit or a university that works with middle school or high school students. So it's kind of different environments will work for this program. So if you have any friends or colleagues who are interested, we welcome a wide variety of people. And you are not necessarily responsible for taking them through the research process. So what that means is you could have a student that maybe did a research project over the summer as part of like an internship, and you would then help them take that project and enter it in the science fair. Though many of our advocates do, take their students through the research process and then help them enter it into the science fair. But there are kind of a variety of settings. And you're mainly helping them manage paperwork, figuring out deadlines and rules, and just helping them guide them through that process to kind of decrease any barriers to participation that they might find. And one of the reasons why we put the emphasis on the competition is more for the process that goes into entering something like that. So the reading and literacy comprehension in terms of, writing up the pieces of your poster or writing a paper, public speaking in terms of presenting your work, being able to discuss your work with judges and the public. So all of the different components that go into the competitions benefit the students in other areas. That being said, there is no focus on how students perform in said competition. We try to discourage for the goals of this program specifically that you have like 15 students go from local to state. So we're not really focusing on how far your students might get in the process, but just that they're taking the steps to enter a competition with their work and being confident in doing that. So where do students come from? Students come from each individual advocate's own student pool. So kind of our basic requirement is that you have a pre-existing relationship with a population of students. All of you here would fit that criteria because you are librarians and teachers. So you have students you pull from, and that just allows you to, all the legal nuts and bolts be covered of working with minors and having permission from their parents and all that fun stuff. And then I've already kind of mentioned the different groups that this program targets. And I think I've mentioned before, but this is focused on grades 6 through 12. So middle school and high school students, and they have to be in one of those grades during the school year that you would participate. And they would either have to have already done a research project or be doing a research project with you throughout the course of the program. What kind of competitions? So it's any competition where they're presenting their individual research to judges and kind of going through that process. So science fair, the competitions that we run, like ISEF, which is essentially like a giant science fair, Broadcom Masters, the Science Talent Search, but other competitions that would qualify are the JSHS, Junior Science and Humanities Symposium, the FAA Agri-Science Fair, the Google Science Fair, if they decide to ever run that again. But there's a wide variety of competitions that could qualify. And we're always open to learning about new ones that we might not have heard about yet. And just a quick thing about the stipend. The stipend is considered to be first and foremost extra funds for you to compensate you for your work. We do encourage all advocates to take it as personal income to help with anything you might need, but it can also be used for things to help run your program that aren't related to student research. So that could be, t-shirts, a pizza party, snacks, things to keep students engaged. However, you wouldn't be using it to buy supplies for a specific student's project. But I can provide all more details if you have questions.
Thank you all again so much for joining. We really appreciate it. And we hope to see you at the next webinar as well. So take care and we will see you soon.